You're hearing that. You're hearing that. That's the Rolling Stones right there. You know what? Because it's a flagship show. It's 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's time to put out those tools in front of us as we're ending up this 22-23 school year. But the learning never stops because you know what? We're an ongoing educational profession that needs to always sharpen those tools. Josh Tovar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA, Texas, ready to rock and roll with an awesome guest today, making sure that we're all a little bit stronger together. Because you know what? Iron sharpens iron. So if you are in Alaska, if you are in Hawaii, if you are in Maine, or you are in Florida, or anywhere in the 48, we need you. Yeah, you know what? We need you because kids require the best version of us every single last day. And with today's guest, we got nothing but the best. What do you think about that, Dean Packard?
I tell you what, Josh Tovar, outstanding lead-in once again. And anytime that you talk about what kids need, that gets me a little bit excited from a leadership standpoint, because that's why we got into this business. We are not an adult employment agency in public education. We are a kid-centered organization that has to meet kids where they're at to make sure that they can have the best experiences possible. My name is Dean Packard, principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts, and obviously one of the co-founders of Unlock the Middle. And Josh, I'll tell you what, every Sunday I get jazzed up, man. You get that lead-in going. And tonight's guest, again, as I sit back and I look at the journey that this man has done and he has completed, and well, I don't want to say completed because he's still smack dab in the middle of it, but it's going to be so interesting to hear his story and how he got to where he is today. But first and foremost, great to see you, my friend. Hope you had a great weekend. How is school ending up for you? Are you in a good place?
We are finished with all evaluations. We're down to the last 5 days, finals
Nice.
this week. But most importantly, graduation in fourth day. The Jaguars getting that diploma, walking across the stage, smiling and crying because they accomplished a great first chapter of their life. So I'm looking forward. I just finished writing my speech for the graduation day, so I'm ready to rock and roll. Dean, how about yourself?
I'll tell you what, we're just finishing up state testing again, as we talked about last week. I can't wait till that's over. I want kids just to be kids. I want them to enjoy some field trips, that end of the year experience of finalizing that learning, but more importantly, just closing the chapter and getting ready for what next year can bring. So that being said, I'll tell you what, that's enough about us. Let's switch gears. And I say, well, we're going to bring in Dr. Manny Scott. And there he is right there. Before, I just wanted to make sure he was right there. Dr.
What's
Scott,
up, fellas?
Great to have you with us. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, brother. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. This has been something we've been looking forward for a while for. And you know what, Manny, I can't wait to hear your story because your story is so rich in what it means to come from here and to go here and to elevate yourself and to and bring people along with you. It's so cool. So again, we want to welcome you to Unlock the Middle between Josh and myself and Chris Stachewski, who's not with us right now. He's still on sabbatical. Chris, if you're out there, hello. We know you're going to be back soon. Chris? There you go. Thank you very much, Manny. So, Manny, let's start right off and go. Talk about your origins. You know, where this all started. Where for you as a student, what were you like when you first started off? We know where you are today, but let's go all the way back in time if we can.
Sure. So, guys, again, thank you. I love your energy, man. Like, you guys are such a gift to the world of education. And every time I'm around you guys, anytime I'm around educators, you guys refill my cup. So thank you for your work, for your legacy, for all that you do for kids. You inspire me. So where did I start? So I come from a beautiful, complicated place. My father's been in prison most of my life. Stepfather was addicted to drugs and at times was abusive. I hurt my mother, attacked my brothers, sometimes me. And I lived in 26 places before I was 16 years old. And I hated school. I sometimes would be sleeping on the floors of homeless shelters, eating out of dumpsters sometimes. And so when I went to school, the last thing on my mind was math or grammar or language arts or, food groups. I was trying to figure out what am I going to eat tonight? Where am I going to sleep tonight? Am I going to have to fight a grown man tonight? And so my grades dropped. And from 4th to 9th grade, I ditched school 60 to 90 days every year, running the streets. When you hate going home, you hate going to school, the only place for kids like me to go is to the streets. And so I was in the streets, 11 years old, smoking weed, getting drunk, broke into my first house. was just out there, just lost. And the first semester of my freshman year in high school, I earned a 0.6 GPA, three F, three Ds, and a C. And second semester, I dropped out because, in addition to everything else I just shared with you, which is almost nothing, my best friend was killed on his way to see me. And when I dropped out, I started just going, the downward spiral got worse. I was getting chased by police, getting chased by helicopters. I was doing stuff that I'm sure would have led me to an early grave or a jail cell. But it was in that place of brokenness, it was in that valley of despair, in that quagmire of misery, man, that several loving adults came into my life and met me right where I was and helped me get back on track. Uh, the first one was a man addicted to crack. He gave me perspective about life and he prayed for me. His name was Martin Stokes. I honor you, brother. Mrs. Wilton, my assistant principal, she gave me a second chance. She connected me with teachers and coaches she believed would help me, would invest in me. And then Coach Clark and Brennan and Cooper and Tucker and Tavazon, my math teacher, Mr. Holkman, my science teacher, Mr. Campbell, who was a guy's guy, man. The way this guy spoke, Dean, you kind of remind me of my Mr. Campbell. He would sit, man, the way this man commandeered the English language would keep me at the edge of my seat. Funny man. And then, of course, there was Miss G, my English teacher, and my lunch lady, Rodu. I had a community of people who believed in me, who loved me, who helped me find a place to belong, helped me find my voice. And it was an English teacher who pushed me to go to college, to her dream school, because I didn't know what college was. I got to see Berkeley, graduated from Berkeley with a degree for me and one for my friend who was killed, Alex. And I went back to graduate school, got a master's degree, and an English teacher, my old English teacher, called me. She says, Manny, congratulations, you did it. Are we thinking about Dr. Scott? And so I just finished my PhD last year after 12 years of, I was on the road. I've been on the road 200 to 300 days a year for the past 23 years. COVID all, affected that. But 23 years I've been doing this work, taking one class a semester. And so last year I finished my PhD, and I'm happily married now, father of 3. And I've really, for the last 23 years, have been just investing my life back into those in the school system, those kids, the least, the last, the lost, the left out, letting them know, look, when you see me, you catch a glimpse of your own possibilities. And when I talk to teachers, look, when you see me, you're reminded that even on your worst day, you can be a student's best hope. And so that's where I'm from. That's a glimpse of who I am and what I've been doing.
1 second, Josh, before you go, even on your worst day, you can be a student's glimmer of hope. Think about that if you're out there, teachers. Think about that if you're out there. It's not about a paycheck. It's about being that glimmer of hope. Love that.
Absolutely.
So, Manny, let me ask you a question. I feel you with the ditching. I feel you with all the bad choices that you made in high school. Trust me, I understand that. And you found those individuals around you that connected with you. So my question to you is this. You had a mindset in high school. I'm fighting the system mindset. Gotcha. I understand, because you didn't conform to their rules, because you never saw a plus in them. So my question to you is this. How did these individuals that you just named that brought love to you, how did they connect with you? Because you were a porcupine. You had those needles out.
Oh, yeah.
I
hated school.
You ain't touching me. I don't believe in anything you're selling. I'm not drinking your Kool-Aid. How were they able to connect? Because you know what? That same kid, that same Manny, is out there right now in Iowa. And that teacher that just got hired is going to deal with Manny tomorrow.
That's right. Absolutely.
So how did you connect?
So you're absolutely right. Like I hated school. I hated school with a passion. And because of the way school was being done, this factory model, this teaching to a test, this covering all this content, I don't really care about who you are. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're going through. And I don't really care because we have a test to take. And I hated that. And so I did everything in my power to avoid that. That's one of the reasons I ditched. And then I fell further and further behind to the point where I'm like, if I show up, they're going to see how far behind I am and they're going to embarrass me even more. So I linked more pain to being in school than I did to being out of school. And I linked more pleasure to being in the streets out of school than I did to being in school. And so, to answer your question, those teachers helped me reverse that neuro association. They helped me link more pleasure to being in school than out of school. How did they do that? Each one did it differently, but if I could summarize what they did, the best ones, the ones who connected with me, started with relationships. They humbled themselves, they decentered themselves, and they entered into my world as a servant leader, as a participant observer, and tried to understand who I was, where I was from, what I'd been through, and to build that trust with me and to give me a place to belong. You know, so for example, there was an my lunch lady, Rodu from Greece. I was failing math, I was failing English, I was failing science all the same week, just so discouraged. And I was about to drop out again. I was about to cross the football field, jump the barbed wire fence, and just leave. My brain's not working. Something's like, I'm doing the homework, I'm getting tutoring, it's not working. And on my way out, my lunch lady saw me and she stopped me. She says, Manny, Manny. And I'm like, hey, Rodo. She says, come. I said, not today, Rodo. She says, come, come. I said, not. She says, come here now, with her mama voice. And I tell leaders, some of your kids don't believe you care about them if you're not willing to confront them with love. Yeah, no one ever cared enough about me to yell at me, to confront me like a parent would. And so she says, come here now, come to mama, come to mama. And I walk up to this woman and I said, Rodu, today's not a good day. And she touched my face. She said, Manny, you're going to be great one day. I see it in your eyes. She'll never know how much I needed to hear that in that moment. She saw my problems, past my problems, to my potential, and she called me up to it. You're going to be great one day. Now go to class. Class is that way. That's one example. There was an English teacher who also built the relationships. This white woman grew up in a gated community, clueless about the inner city, and she walks into our class of Blacks, Latinos, Asians, and several poor white kids who scored at the bottom 25th percentile on all the statewide tests. This woman comes in with this pearl necklace on, this polka dotted Julia Roberts Pretty Woman dress, and clueless about us, passed out these syllabi with names on it like Shakespeare, Chaucer, Hemingway, Frost, people we knew nothing about, couldn't care about them, couldn't care less about them. My boy threw it back at her. He was like, why you got us reading all this crap? And so this woman started off in a rough place. My boy Sherrod said, hey, I bet you I could get this white lady to cry by the end of the week. So we hated school, but this woman just kept showing up and trying something else. But what really helped us is when she humbled herself, became a student of her students, began to understand us through our lens, through our perspective, and incorporate that new understanding into her curriculum, into her teaching. And she built bridges between her amazing content and our very complicated contexts. And when she let us see ourselves in her teaching, in her curriculum, that's when many of us started leaning in, seeing Tupac, seeing Biggie, seeing Nas, seeing our heroes being broken down academically, grammatically, rhetorical tropes. So when I started seeing myself, I started finding a place to belong. And I started getting these little successes, because the little successes gave me confidence, like, man, I can do this. There was a bunch of that going on, not just with her, several leaders, just all these little nudges along the way just helped me keep going sometimes when I wanted to give up.
You know, speaking about giving up, we've all hit that wall. We've hit that proverbial wall. We just didn't feel
Yeah.
like continuing on. Manny, what really inspired you to get through some of the toughest times? And this story right here is real. It's relevant. It's your past. It's what you've got to work through.
Yeah.
How did you get through it? Talk about that for a second. There are days you probably just wanted to just drop it all and just leave and just go do your thing.
Oh, brother, I still feel like that sometimes. It's
Okay, fair.
it's a journey, but um I actually posted about this yesterday on Facebook. Someone asked me, how did you keep going and how do you keep going? What keeps you going? And the short answer is I was running from my past. I was running from poverty. I was running from drug addiction. I was running from alcoholism. I was running from promiscuity. I was running from instability. I was running from toxicity and dysfunction. I saw all of that around me. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to go to jail. So I was running from my past. That was one thing. Like, if I don't change, then I'm going to be stuck right here like everybody else. Second thing was I was running I was running toward. I had these dreams, these goals, these visions. I want to be the first person in my family to graduate from high school. Man, I want to be the first person in my family to go to college and graduate. Man, I want to get a master's degree. I want to get a PhD. I want to fly airplanes. I want to be a faithful husband one day. I want to be a good dad. So all of the men in my family, they abandon their children. I want to be the dad who sticks around so my children don't have to grow up with the brokenness that I've had to grow up with. And then maybe most importantly is just my faith in Christ. My faith that even in the darkest moments that I'm not alone, and that with God's help, I can overcome all of this because he has more for me to do, more for me to be, more people for me to help. Those are the big things that have kept me going, Dean.
I love that.
Yeah.
Manny, we can honestly say that you're one of the icons in our field. You're on that mountain, and so you're a blessing to all of us, and it's crucial that that you make a difference in everyone's life. And along the same lines of that, I would like to ask you this: you being an icon in the field of education, you being a strong leader and just going above A plus plus, who is your role model in education right now?
Oh, well, first, brother, you humble me. I don't, I don't see myself as an icon. I'm just trying my best, and I've been trying to do my best to give hope to the hopeless and to help educators and pay it forward. I feel called to this. I don't always feel like it. I haven't always felt like it. It's not always fun. It's hard work. It's humbling work. It's heartbreaking work sometimes. I've been in jails, juvenile halls. I've been in hospitals. I've been in cemeteries. It's hard work sometimes, but I don't do it because it's fun. I've done it because I felt called to it, and I felt that there are people out there who need hope, who need help, who are up like I was about to give up. And so that's why I've done this work. And so I thank you, though, for honoring me, brother. You humble me. In terms of people who inspire me, man, I'm inspired by you guys. I'm inspired by principals all across this nation, leaders who maybe don't have a movie about them, who don't have a journalist in your face documenting all of the work they're doing. It's the unsung heroes of this nation, man, who show up every day, who are unappreciated, under-recognized, underpaid, overlooked, mistreated in so many ways from politicians, you name it. And so it's really those in the trenches that I meet, that I've met, the people who show up every day for the kids who need the most help. That's really who inspires me. Now, of course, there are leaders that have name recognition that I love and respect, but man, it's educators. You guys, man, like that you would continue to show up despite everything you face politically, economically, financially, with the way the family is changing, all of the drama y'all have to deal with all of those difficult parents that you have to address, all of that you deal and you keep showing up, that humbles me. And so when a superintendent or principal invites me to come and talk to their staff or their leaders, it humbles me that these are the folks in the trenches every day and have been there giving their best. And that inspires me to keep going, if that makes sense.
You know, your answer is like a grassroots answer, man, and it's humble, it's core, it's what we stand for in education. You know, and Manny, I'm thinking back for a second. You use the word factory lens when you're talking about public education, or I can right to my mind the compliance ratio over learning before relationships, and how sometimes educators get that way. So as we see the evolution of public education and the desire and need to meet every child where they're at, what do you see as some of the obstacles that's facing not only just funding, let's say, because that funding formula is going to be bad everywhere we go. We're never going to have enough money to provide what we need for kids. We're just not. But we'll always have that human capacity to do so. So I'm just going to step back for a second. So what do you see as the major obstacles in public education today?
Oh, brother, I think just from some of my research and conversations with students and teachers and administrators, I think a lot of high stakes testing is a huge obstacle to the development of mastery among so many students, right? So just my daughter and I were talking last night. She's putting together a petition. She got 100 students to sign this petition so she could present it to her principal to modify the way homework is given out. She says, and my daughter has 4.0. She's in the gifted program. She's a peer leader. So she's not a slacker, but she says, sometimes, Dad, teachers give too much homework and we don't have enough time to do it. It's too difficult. They haven't explained the concepts enough for us to even understand them. So when we come home, we're struggling to figure it out on our own, and our grade is tied to this homework, and it affects our ability to perform on these tests. She says, and she says, and I have good parents. My dad has a PhD. My mom has a master's degree in chemistry. She says, what about those little kids like you, Dad, who don't have support at home, who don't have anyone who can help them with their homework? So there's a big issue there, I think, with just high stakes testing. Some districts are spending 25% of the year preparing kids to take a test that takes 3 days. And so many teachers I've heard say, we wish we could just teach. We wish we could just teach. That's a big one for me. I see and I hear many teachers feeling like they're overloaded with administrative work, and they're having to check all these boxes, and they're exhausted and they're burned out, and they're having to do more with less, and don't really have the availability to be present with their students. Those are just some of the things I've seen holding us back. A big one is lack of parental involvement. I see, and hear so many teachers, they're afraid to talk about it online because, whatever, but I'm talking about it. I'm like, look, the reason I'm so busy is because it's so hard for teachers. Why is it hard? Because parents are sending some kids to school with a whole lot of baggage, and these schools are supposed to fix problems that parents are supposed to be addressing. So many problems we face in school and society are due to I think, poor parenting. What just happened? Did my computer just die?
You're good.
No, you're there. No, you're still right. You're right on.
For some reason, okay. Thanks. Sorry, guys. My screen just went black. These are just some things, guys, that off the top of my head that are in the way. Maybe class size, teacher burnout. I hear about, I think it's 400,000 teachers have left the profession. I don't know how many administrators have left. So now these teachers who have already been committed are having to do even more. And so just off of the top, man, these are just some of the challenges I see in education. One more comes to mind: the lack of intercultural competence among many teachers. So A lot of teachers mean well and they have hearts of gold, but many of them lack the understanding, the awareness, and skills to meet students where they are and present learning opportunities to them that they perceive as relevant, achievable, and worth their time. So, how do you build a bridge between content and context? How do you do that in a way where the kid leans in and says, "This is exciting. It's not just about compliance, but I'm really engaged." Um, these are just
That's
some
the
of the
key
things
word.
that jump out for me.
That's the key word, student engagement. You can walk by any
Yeah.
classroom. If kids are involved and you hear content discourse going on, you hear discussion that's deep and relevant, you know that teacher has shifted the mindset from compliance to
Yes.
relational. I mean, and to me, that is like the greatest gift that any educator could have right now, especially in
Absolutely.
today's day, as we're trying to revamp and restructure coming out of COVID for kids. I mean, this is huge. This is a great opportunity for us.
It's huge, man. It's during times like this, I think, we can come up with something new and innovative that, I tell the story of how my English teacher, she she was trying all this stuff that didn't work with us. I've heard her say that she was trained by professors who hadn't seen a kid in 100 years. And it really wasn't about ageism as much as it was about relevance and being on the ground, understanding what kids are going through today, understanding what teachers are facing today. So she said she realized like the stuff they taught her doesn't work with her kids. It doesn't work with kids in the inner city of Long Beach. So man, she pushed her desks against the wall and she just started like almost from scratch. Like I have to try something else. And it didn't work. And she'd show up and she'd try something else and it didn't work. And she just kept showing up until she had this breakthrough. And she started connecting with us and helping us feel safe, seen, and loved, helping us feel like we had a place to express ourselves, helping us feel like our trauma matters. It's not just about grit, but it's about healing. It's about being able to talk about the fact we've seen people get killed in front of us, raped. Some of us had been molested. Some of us experienced all kind of trauma, and no one ever gave us space to deal with those. So this woman just kind of threw everything to the side and said, I got to figure this out. And this is where I think this is why Freedom Riders resonates with so many people, because this woman found a new way to connect with kids in the inner city of Long Beach, even though she was so culturally distant from us when she began. And so I think you're right, Dean. You got to find a way to engage. If it doesn't work anymore, we got to try something else. I can't tell you how many times I've been in assemblies working with kids where I was humbled. I'm like, that doesn't work anymore. I got to try something else. And the humility and the humiliation and the frustration that comes from I'm not connecting. This is too important for me to not connect, do not engage. I got to find another way. And we are right now in the midst of, I think, a huge revolution where education is changing and the way we do education has to change, or we're going to lose a lot more of our kids and teachers.
Adapt and adjust, baby. I love it.
I love
100%.
it, man.
Hermano, on the
See,
show, well, I myself, your LinkedIn Saturday events, I love them. I follow them. Your YouTube videos, everything that you do, I'm there, man. I'm knowledge.
I
Knowledge is
love you,
key.
brother.
You're always fine tuning and finding that piece to connect with that audience, because they're not the same kids. They're not the same kids when I was in the 80s, in the
Yeah,
90s, the zeros, the tens. We need to evolve as educators, and you get to see the whole country. You
yeah,
get to see every single last region and find out what the issue is in that region, and you present it out in your LinkedIn speeches, in your YouTube videos.
yeah.
So the reason I say that is this: there are a lot of speakers out there that we've had on the show, that Dean and Chris have had on the show. That's why it's a great platform they created and they keep on
Mhm,
promoting. And young speakers like Brandavius Johnson, like AC
mhm,
Cristales, Ricky Ramirez, they're
mhm.
young speakers, and they're evolving. Not to say that they're you, but they're their version of what you bring to the table to help out our institution, to help out education. So can you talk to that Brian Davis Johnson, that Ricky Ramirez, that is beginning, fledgling speaker? How did you start off, and how did you reach this pinnacle, this icon status?
Oh, brother, well, you keep throwing out this icons. Listen, I don't
La
know, man.
verdad es la verdad.
Te amo, amigo. Muchas gracias. For young speakers, and I've, through the years, I've been doing this 23 years, man. It's crazy to think. The like it's a some of it's a blur to me because you just go and go and go sometimes. Um, but through the years, I've prayed, God, please raise up more voices for this generation. Raise up for the sake of these kids and these teachers, so I can slowly take my exit because I'm tired. Please raise up more. So, seeing these other young speakers come up, it makes, I'm so grateful for them. I was actually able to provide some training to Ramirez when he began, and I just laid a foundation for him. This is what it takes. But I think it all starts with love for the kids. I tell people, if you get into this for the money, then you're not going to make it. And because there are easier ways to make money, and the things you have to go through in order to make the kind of money you want to make, you'll give up before you get there because it's so hard. You have to love these kids. You have to love these teachers, these educators, like for real. Like, not, this is not a hustle. This is not a side hustle. This is not some way for me to get paid to come up. No, people feel that. Teachers feel that. Principals feel that. And if you show up and you feel like you are just trying to get a paycheck, you're wasting their time and you're doing a disservice to this industry and to this work. And I don't think you're worthy of the work or worthy of the opportunities if you're just in this for the money. People are dying. People are committing suicide. Kids are dropping out. Teachers are so burned out. Principals are at the edge of their capacity. You cannot play. Your heart has to be in this, number one. I think number two, integrity matters. Who you are when you're not on stage, when you're away from your wife or your husband, and you're in those hotel rooms and you're in all these strange lands, who you are when no one else is looking and sees you matters. And that spills over into your work. If you lack integrity, it shows up in your work and it will rob you of power and effectiveness with the audiences you want to reach. Self-care is huge. This work will pull you into a very dark, lonely place. If you do it the way I've done it, every time I speak like a dying man to a dying world. And as though this will be my last presentation ever. I don't know if I'll make it beyond this day. And if this is it, God, please make it count. And when you speak like that, people feel it. What comes from the heart reaches the heart. And when you do that, the kids will flock to you. They will swarm you as they've swarmed me for all these years. And one by one have unloaded on me some trauma, some pain, some brokenness. I have secondary trauma from things kids have shared with me, millions of kids. And it's broken my heart, it's humbled me. And the weight can become so heavy that it will pull you into a dark place sometimes where you don't want to get out of bed. So you need people around you who love you, who you can talk to, who understand, someone you can vent to, someone who just loves you. And for me, that's my wife, my kids, close friends, where you can just be you, right? You need self-care, you need vacations. And the biggest thing, I guess, is you need to stay salty. You need to stay salty, right? Where does that come from? People ask me, where does that come from? I was in Texas, in Rockwall, and I opened up for Q&A. This man in the back said, Mr. Scott, I needed this more than you know. But how do you reach that despondent kid in the back of the room with the difficult parents who don't want nothing you selling? He says, I want to reach him. Do you have any advice for me? And I said, man, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it. Before I finished the phrase, this cowboy in the back of the other side of the room. He had this big cowboy hat on and this big belt buckle and this rich East Texan accent. He cut me off. He said, "Oh, Mr. Scott," he said, "I beg your pardon, sir." He said, I'm from here." He said, and believe it or not, he says, I was born on a ranch. I was raised on a ranch. And believe it or not, I live on a ranch right now. I said, "Okay." He said, "What you're saying about the horse is partially correct, sir, partially." He said, "Manny, it's true you can lead a horse to water, can't make it drink fair enough. But Manny, you sure as hell can slap some salt in his mouth and make him thirsty. It's called a salt lick." And so I was like, "Man, thank you. Have a seat." I don't know what this man is talking about, but I did my homework. And our licks are a thing that salt. And so I call people. I'm like, salt makes horses thirsty, and salt makes people thirsty. And so I call people to be salty, because if you're salty, the students will be thirsty, the staff will be thirsty, the community will be thirsty. And when they're thirsty, please serve them water that's nourishing to their souls, that's culturally appropriate to their context. Don't pity them in their poverty, but empower through education to overcome it. And for me, that is essential to do work at a high level, as a speaker, as a teacher, as an educator. You be consistent. This work also is a law of averages. There are some days you're just going to stink. Like, there's some days you're just going to be discouraged. You're not going to connect. You're just be like, "Man, I'm going to give up, dude. I suck." Like, there's going to be days, and you're going to sit alone and feel sorry for yourself. But you get up the next day and you try again and you try again. And over time, what I found is it averages out. As long as you keep giving your best and you keep working to stay salty, and you keep that integrity and you honor your commitments and you keep loving these people and you keep learning. Keep learning. If you stop learning today, you should stop speaking or leading or teaching tomorrow. Keep learning, because everything is changing. Everything is changing, man. The vocabulary is changing. The phrases are changing. Some values are changing. The music is changing. The family structure is changing. Religious commitments are changing. You name it. Everything's changing. And so we who are in the middle of these changes need to humble ourselves and try to, like Dean said, to adapt and respond to these changes in a way that I think the kids can receive. So that's, just off the top, man, what I think young speakers will need, but really anybody. I've made it 23 years, not always because, I guess, of my own accord, but by the grace of God too. During those moments when I wanted to give up, I would feel lifted to keep going. Sometimes when I'm standing before an audience, my Be Salty morning routine, it's on YouTube. It kind of repositions me to be my best, regardless of how I was feeling that morning. And I can't explain it. This actually help a speaker, help a leader. When I'm standing before a group of people who are hopeless, who are tired, who are exhausted, who are at the bottom, who feel marginalized, who feel overwhelmed, who feel worthless, something happens to me. Something inside me rises up, so that no matter how tired I am, I feel a power and a passion come out of me, because I think I'm serving the groups that call out the best in me. You got to find the groups that call out the best. I've been invited to speak to billionaires and millionaires, and I've done that. And after I was done speaking to those groups, I'm like, I don't want to leave my house for this. That doesn't call out the best in me. I'm not interested in helping anyone get richer. I don't like transactional relationships. It isn't for me. But give me the hopeless. Give me the hurting. Give me the discouraged and the lost. Give me those in the trenches. Work with those. Give me the ones in jail. Man, those ones make me come to life. So if you're going to speak, be clear about who calls out the best in you and target that group, whoever it is. Those are just nuggets that I think have helped me and guided me along the way, my brother.
Man, yes, that's so good. Listen, I got a simple question for you off script because I was supposed to ask you about what salty meant. So thanks for taking that one. That was a perfect segue into it. So I'm gonna take a step outside of the comfort zone here. And listen, you've traveled the world. You've spoken to so many people, been to so many schools. Let me ask you a question for the audience out here. Give me one quick story where you just nailed it. And when you left, you said, that was worth my time to be away from my family, to be doing the thing I love the most. And it could have been in Wisconsin. It could have been, I don't care, another continent for crying out loud. But when you left, you just said, man, this matters. Just one quick story.
Oh, brother. Dean, there's so many, man. I don't think you can make it 23 years, without. I have letters and just that I keep in my jacket sometimes to remind me, man, why am I in this airport? Why do I keep getting strip searched with this TSA? And why do I keep dealing with this crap? But brother, like, here's one. So I was speaking at a high school, and early in the morning in the Midwest. I was in the Midwest, but it's happened all over the country. And when I was done, finished speaking, normally the kids will form a line and they'll come to thank me. They'll come to take an ussy with me, which is a plural of a selfie, or they'll share a story with me or whatnot. And then after they're done, I slowly start packing up and I start heading out. So I leave. I'm going to the parking lot to my car, and the custodian runs outside and says, Mr. Scott, you can't leave yet. Please come back. I said, man, I got a flight to catch. I got to be somewhere tomorrow. Like, sir, it's an emergency. Can you please come back? Oh, all right. I walk back into the school. He leads me to this bathroom. Outside the bathroom is the superintendent, principal, counselor, and the custodian, and some other folks. They said, one of our students is in this bathroom and something's wrong, but he won't talk to us. Can you please try? Something's wrong. Man, I open this bathroom door, and in this back corner of this bathroom is this tall white student. He's just in the corner doing this. I'm like, damn. And I just ease over to him, and I put my arm over his shoulder and I just hug him. I said, buddy, what's wrong? What's wrong, buddy? What's wrong? And after 30 seconds, a minute of that, he looks up at me. He says, I just walked into my living room and I found my daddy hanging. My mom abandoned me when I was a baby. I don't even know who she is. But me and my dad, man, my daddy's gone, man. My daddy's gone. My daddy's gone. And I just hugged him and I cried with him. And just sat there with him in the pain. And we connected him with his counselors and people who loved him. And then I left. And I left him in good hands. 3 years later, maybe 3-4 years later, it's about four, I guess. I don't know how he found my address, but he sent me a handwritten letter. And I opened this letter, and it's from Adam. And he says, Mr. Scott, I don't know if you remember me, but I was in a bathroom years ago about to commit suicide after my father hung himself. He says, but you sat there with me and you talked with me and you gave me hope and you prayed with me. He says, and I just wanted to find you and thank you. He says, I just graduated from college and I'm now a counselor for traumatized young people. And I just thought you would want to know that. Dean, those stories are the ones that just kind of fill my cup. Someone said, and I think it's true, God doesn't show you all of the fruit of your labor so that you don't get arrogant thinking you did it all in your own strength. but he shows you just enough to let you know that your work has not been in vain. So stories like that have stories like that let me know, like, okay, I'm tired, but this work matters. It has cosmic significance, and I'll do it as long as I can. So that's just one of many stories that fill my cup.
Oh, that's an unfair question because I know you probably had a bunch of different scenarios you could have talked about, but that was a powerful, powerful story right there.
Thank
And it's
you,
one of
Dean.
the reasons why we do what we do. So thank you for sharing that, Manny.
Oh, you're so welcome, brother. Thank you.
You know, Manny, carnal, it's the end
Hmm.
of the school year. You're seeing all these graduation pics going back and forth. High school, pre-K, kinder, eighth grade, college, master's, PhDs, all over graduations, right? But in
Yeah.
our field, the field that we support, it, if we were to say one word for this year, is tired.
Hmm.
Tired. People are tired right now.
Oh,
They were tired, I think, in January. So
man.
my the closing thought for you is this: can you send some love out there? Your closing thoughts to all those awesome and beautiful educators. It doesn't matter whether it be the crossing guard, whether it be that cashier in the cafeteria, whether it be that custodian, whether it be that special ed aide or that AP teacher or freshman teacher that just got hired yesterday.
Wow.
What words can you give them in closing off this year and starting off a powerful next year?
Well, I need to ask you guys to send me your graduation speeches, man. I'll tell them what you guys have written. You guys been writing your speeches, so you know you're right there with them. For me, um, and I think this may be why I've been so busy. And I used to think that people would leave me alone, and I could go back to living a regular life. Like I could go back to doing something else. Like people, they're going to leave me alone. I'm not going to be on the road anymore. But it seems like more and more people are calling me. And I'm like, man, because like you said, they're tired and there's a need for hope. So for that teacher, that staff member, that security guard, that cashier, um, I hope you know that even on your worst day, you really have been some students' best hope. Really, you might not realize it, but that gesture of kindness, that word of encouragement, that little act of love, you might not realize it. That little nudge, that little crucial conversation has had a bigger impact than you may realize at this moment. Most of the people who helped me when I was at the lowest moments of my life never saw that I would become this. They didn't see this. They didn't see Dr. Manny Scott, who flies airplanes and travels the world. No, they were just faithful to their assignment while they had me. And they planted seeds, trusting that someone else might water it and believing that maybe God would one day give the increase. But your work has not been in vain. So thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for loving these kids when they've needed it most. Thank you for your patience for the kids who maybe deserved it least. Thank you for your kindness, for everything you've invested into these young people, my friend. It has not been in vain. And I pray that this summer you can rest and recharge and reflect on this amazing work that you've done. Again, this our movie Freedom Riders is a tribute to everyone in the trenches who shows up every day to give their very best, even though there's no cameraman in your face, even though no one sees you. I want you to know I'm so grateful for you, and on behalf of the millions of young people that you serve, I just want to say thank you so much. Yeah.
Manny, I don't know what else to say, man. I'm sitting here kind of in awe because you said a lot of things that really have resonated within me as a leader for over 20 years in the same school.
Wow.
And I think about what the purpose of my job is. It's not about me. It's about the people around me, building capacity, helping kids find new avenues, new experiences. And from a leadership standpoint, everything you just said there just goes right back to that, because that's what we need to do in leadership. And guess what? Leadership doesn't stop with being a principal. It's everybody associated with kids. It doesn't matter. We all have an equal role in all of this. So, man, thank you so much. Hey, how can people get in touch with you, Manny? How if they're trying to reach you, whether it's for a speaking engagement, whether it's for a book signing, whether it's for, I don't know, whatever you got going on out there, man. How can they find you? That Brother, iconic figure that you are, man. That's
man.
Dr. Tovar here.
Man, I think that's a synonym for old. I think you guys are calling.
You didn't say nostalgic. You didn't say that.
You're nostalgic leader. No, look, you can find me at mannyscott.com, at Manuel Scott. You know, it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. I'm starting TikTok too. My kids have made me do that. But you can start, my online home is mannyscott.com. And let me say this, Dean, like you said, you've been there 20 years in the same building. Brother, that is so amazing to me. I think I've heard it was Principal L or someone who says, you know, I choose to stay. Someone said you need to be somewhere at least 5 or 10 years, or maybe even 20 years to really affect the culture of a place. And so many leaders leave early, you know, maybe beyond for circumstances beyond their control. But the fact that you've been in a place for 20 years, man, is to me iconic. So, brother, thank you for your work. Hermano, tú también, man. Thank you both for your work and your legacy, for your sacrifice, for your dedication. Really.
Josh, take us home, my friend.
All I'm saying is, woo! Ric Flair. Woo! Hey, Manny, appreciate you.
Oh, love you
coming
guys,
over
man.
on the flagship show. I love you, care about you. We'll keep on following you, taking that wisdom from you. But most importantly, but hey, Dean, that's not it. We're not done today. We're not done today.
We're never done, Josh. Just keep on coming at me.
What do we have on Tuesday, Dean?
Oh, it's going to be office hours, Josh. Okay. What's the scenario? I got to know ahead of time.
20-minute problem-solving show. And we expect everybody, including Dr. Manny Scott, to be there, because we want to know how he would solve a real-world example. So
I don't even know what he's going to come out with. This guy, he comes out with these things I've never heard of before. 20 years
it's real stuff that I faced. It's real stuff.
I love it.
Join us this Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, office hours. Join us. Be there or be square. We love you. We care about us. Dean, take us home.
All right, listen, Dr. Manny Scott, thank you so much. Josh Tovar, always great to see you. Listen, I'm going to end this with this. The legacy that we want to set for everybody around us is the one that leaves doors open, and we want you to grow. We want you to have an impact, and we want you to be better than you ever believed that you could be. That's what leadership's all about. Dr. Scott, thank you so much once again. Josh Tovar, always a pleasure. For all you guys out there, remember, kids deserve the best version of us. Don't ever forget that, because that's what we're all about. Hold on for 1 second, guys. Everybody, have a great night.